ESPN Radio and New Hampshire's best sports. This is WGAM, The Game.
Welcome back, everybody, to the New England Golf Radio Show. I am JJ Truman. Chris has got something on right now, and I don't even have a clue what it is. I know everybody out there is not surprised.
You're going to know in 1 second. Ready?
Oh, we got beats.
Yeah.
We've got beats going on this Sunday
50
morning.
Cent.
Good stuff, Chris. We love it. We got Dan Lockhart on the line, the head of instruction at the Rick Smith Golf Academy, which is located at the International in Bolton, Massachusetts. A fabulous facility. I know they've been doing a great job down there. I've seen Dan on the internet. He's got YouTube stuff going on. They're everywhere right now. They're on Twitter. I've seen them all over. Not that I've been stalking you guys or anything down there, Dan, but I've seen you everywhere. How are things going this morning, Dan?
Yeah, things are great here in Bolton. It's a little chilly, a little rainy, so glad to be on the show with you, and certainly appreciate being included here, and looking forward to talking some golf.
Yeah, absolutely. We love having you on. You have some great stuff for us last time, and yeah, the weather this weekend has held us down. Although we've had some great weather over the past 2 weeks, so I know you certainly had some people down there playing. How are your students doing at the Rick Smith Academy? Do you have anything to tell us about what's going on with them? Any successes? Any big things going on with your students down there right around this time?
Well, right now we're working with a lot of the members. Trying to get involved with the membership here and getting them lowering their scores. The golf courses are really coming into form and starting to shape up really nicely. So working with them is really a priority right now. But besides that, I've got a student that plays for URI, Andrew Fiorenzano, and he's had a great freshman year, and we had him up this past week and had him go through the TaylorMade system and introduced him to Brandon Smith, our fitness expert, and trying to get him going for the summer season.
And so that's excellent. So you have a college guy, a college golfer, has a great freshman year, comes to you guys and says, "Get me better. I need to get better physically. I need to get better mentally, and I need to work on my golf swing." And you have that whole package down there at the Rick Smith Golf Academy and all that stuff at the International, which is phenomenal. Now, he went through the whole process. What did he say about the TaylorMade Fitting Lab? I'm just curious. What was his response after going through that process?
Yeah, he loved it. He's actually been out to the Kingdom in Carlsbad, so which is maybe the original one. I'm not sure, but it's certainly one of the 5 or so in the country. So he had already had some some experience with the TMP labs and the system, the mat system. But it's always just really cool to see it. And I asked him, "Is there anything different?" He said, "No, it's the same thing as we saw there, and it's as good as it gets." What's really neat for me is to see the biomechanic numbers, the body numbers. The golf club stuff is great as well, but for me to see, Andrew's got very fast hips. He's small and wiry and very quick, and he's got great flexibility, so not much of an issue there. But just seeing his hips, one thing I've always noticed, and you see it with Rory McIlroy as well, where his hips rotate so much in the forward swing that as he's actually coming through the ball, his hips are open about 60 degrees to the target line. And his hips actually stall and actually close on the follow-through, and then they reopen on the finish position. So that little bit of a stall and that kind of pullback, Brandon could tell you more about the specifics on how that happens, but that is something that was really neat for me to see a number put to it, and certainly for wedge shots, we wouldn't want that kind of discrepancy. So that was neat to see there, and that helped me out a lot as the instructor.
Right, and to see the biomechanics, and that's interesting. He does have that little twitch in his hips, and if you can see that if you look at Rory's swing, you see not in real time. You have to look at it in slow motion, obviously, because he's moving his hips so fast. He's got that little twitch in it, and some people call it a tweak, and I don't know how it affects the golf swing. I'll leave that to you guys, the professionals that get paid for it. I can imagine if his hips are open 60 degrees at impact, that the kid absolutely bombs it off the tee, though. I'm sure he is super long, and if he plays for URI, I'm sure he's a really good player. So it's awesome that you get the opportunity to work with somebody of that caliber, and I'm sure you've worked with a bunch of people in the past that have that type of game, which is a lot of fun. And then to put the technology to it just makes it that much better for them. And you mentioned the Kingdom. I've heard of the Kingdom, and just by the name of it, you have to get excited, right? I mean, the TaylorMade, the Kingdom. I mean, who's the king of the Kingdom out there? I would like to go talk to them and see if they can hook me up with some clubs, but we'll talk about that at another time. So you talked about your work with him, the URI player, working with the members. Now, if there are other ways that somebody can get down there and work with you guys, let's say for a weekend or a week, do you have any packages that are along those lines?
Yeah, definitely. Like I've mentioned before, I'm really fortunate to be at a facility here where we have a great lodge. So we've got a 51-room lodge here on site. We've got 2 championship golf courses, and we've created a package here called the Ultimate Experience, which includes all the, I guess you could call them amenities, but all the facets to make you a world-class golfer, or what a world-class golfer would go through: the fitness, the biofeedback with the body, the club fitting, the instruction, the on-course work, and of course playing some great golf courses and going through some assessment testing. One thing that we really pride ourselves on is doing great skills testing assessments. So short game, and also a combine test by TrackMan, which is a 60-shot test, which is really cool. And we have data from a lot of the tour players and college players, so you can see where you stack up, and you can also see where you stack up against your 18 handicap or your weekend golfer, and see where your strengths and weaknesses are.
Perfect. That's who I want to be stacked up against for sure. I want to see where I'm going against the 18 handicapper, and that's interesting that you go through that sort of combine and you can assess what parts of your game really need work. And as you know, and probably everybody out there knows, it's different things at different times. So you can go down there as many times as you want during the summertime, get this assessment, and maybe you're not driving it well, and you figure that out from the assessment. Go down 2 months later, maybe you're driving it well, but your short game is off, and you guys can work with people on that. And I think that's phenomenal, helping people get better at the things that they need to get better, and it's constantly changing as a golfer, at least for me, and it seems that way for everybody else. I know sometimes I drive it well, every once in a while maybe I drive it well, but sometimes other parts of my game are off, and it's nice to go down there and get reassured and say, okay, yeah, I'm doing this well, but let's get better at the short game. Now, we got the U.S. Open coming up. Now, we know that the USGA is notorious for setting the course up extremely hard, growing the rough at ridiculous lengths, and just making these guys earn a U.S. Open championship. Can you give us a little something on how to play out of the long rough? We've gotten a lot of rain. I know courses are trying to keep up with it, but I know the grass is growing fast and the rough is getting long out there. So can you give us a little something for playing out of the rough?
Definitely. The rough here at the International has become very dense. Thick. They're keeping up with it, but it is hard to get through, and certainly different than what I'm used to down in Tiburon and Naples, where we don't have rough at all. But to help you get out of the rough, 2 ways. I'll look at it first from the instructor side and look at the technique involved. And what you're really trying to do is minimize how much grass you have between the face and the balls, trying to create the best contact possible. And the way to do that is just by simply having a steeper angle of attack or coming down on it steeper. How to do that, swing your arms a little bit higher, get the club to work up and down a little bit more, play almost like a cut shot as opposed to trying to hit a draw or a hook out of the rough. That's tough because you usually come in from a lower angle and you get a lot of grass in between the face and the ball, and the ball has trouble getting up in the air or creating any kind of spin, really. So that's one thing more technically. And then in the setup, what you could do, this is actually a very simple tip that you could just take to the course today. Just grip the face a little bit open. Similar to a bunker shot, but maybe not to that extreme. But if you literally just took the face and turned it 5 degrees open and just gripped it normal, because what happens is coming out of the rough, the grass is going to grab the hosel and turn the face downward and close it. So if I've got a 9-iron and I grip it a little bit open and it turns it down, a few degrees, now it's coming out like a 9-iron should, as opposed to a 7 or an 8-iron, which might not give you a whole lot of loft out of the rough, especially depending upon your swing speed. And then the other thing is just making sure that you let your big muscles do the work and turn through. I think a lot of people try to muscle it out with their hands and arms. If the body can keep on turning, then that'll help the hands and arms get through easier. So that's the technical side of your answer. The coaching side, and this is something that I used to coach a girls' golf team, high school team down in Florida, and one thing I talked to them a lot about was just don't compound your errors. So if you're in the rough, and you've got a shot towards the green or towards the flagstick, but you've got to clear 150 yards of rough, you've got about 40, 50 yards of fairway to the right as well. Say you're in the left rough, you've got all this fairway to the right. You don't have to go right at the flagstick. You can play out to, to the center of the fairway as opposed to going at the flagstick. So I think just being aware and really planning out your shot is the best remedy for getting out of the rough, if you will, because you wouldn't want to hit in the rough and then hit another shot into the rough as well.
Right.
So take your medicine and just get the ball out.
Yeah, and when you do that, when you compound those errors, you're instead of just saying, you know what, I hit it in the rough, I'm going to take my bogey and move on. Now you're looking at 7s and you're looking at 8s, and then not only have you made 2 mistakes in a row, but you maybe ruined your round. And if you're playing in a tournament round, certainly these guys at U.S. Open, they're not going to want to have 7s and 8s on the card. Probably not going to allow them to make the cut or be successful. I want to point out to everybody that Dan is a really good instructor because he answered the question with technical and both coaching advice instead of just saying what I would have said, which was don't hit it in the rough, right? I mean, that's the simple answer. Like, you want to play out of the rough, don't hit it there, right? And that would have been my response, but you gave us something great. Get your arms a little bit steeper, get in, turn your body, open the club face, which is really simple. That's something that I'll certainly try. I have some trouble playing out of the rough, and especially when it's thick and wet, it's tough doing that. And then the last thing, don't compound your errors. Don't turn a 5 into an 8 because you think you can hit the green from 200 yards away out of the rough. Certainly great advice. Now, let's say we're in the rough, we hit a decent shot or we play it smart, we lay up to a par 4. Do you have something you can give us for the short game? Short game will be huge this week at the U.S. Open because these guys are going to be relying on their short game to get them up and down when they miss greens, and that's never easy at a U.S. Open with the rough near the green. Also, the bunkers at Congressional are difficult to play out of. So give us something for our short game in case we decide to lay up, make a smart decision on a par 4, and now we've got 50, 60, 20 yards to get it up and down for par.
Yeah, I think something that just came to mind actually was when the great Payne Stewart, when he won at Pinehurst in '99, the U.S. Open. He had a plan. He created a game plan with his coach to find when he walked the course and he played the course before. He went around and in his yardage book, he highlighted areas to lay up to, and he just knew where if he was in the rough, he wasn't going to go for the green. He was going to go to these areas because he felt so confident in his wedge distances, his distancing with his wedges, that he knew he could make up and down better from whether it was 100 yards or 75 yards or whatever it was for that in particular hole, and in particular the whole location as well on the green, that he was prepared for it. So I think really the best thing to do for your short game is when you go out and practice, if you can find what is your best distance to lay up to. And I know it's tough when you're on the golf course. I'm always one thinking I'm going to get it as close as I can to the green, and I'm going to just chip it up and down. But the fact of the matter is that I know for myself, 80 yards, I'm better from 80 yards than I am from 50 yards. I'm better from 80 yards than I am from 100 yards. That's just me. So if I know where to lay up to, that's, I think, the first thing without even working on technique. And then as far as the technique goes and around the short game, I think just swing within yourself, and the less you can use your hands in the follow-through, the better. The more you rely on your bigger muscles. That's certainly kind of a theme with me, is that you don't want to become handsy, because especially when the tension creeps in there, you become more apt to have a bad shot or make an error shot where you hit it thin or fat. So relying more on the big muscle groups and less on the hands and the smaller muscles, I think, helps out quite a bit.
Yeah, it helps you be consistent.
Yeah, one thing I see with folks is the stances, the width of stance. A lot of times people take very wide stance for chip shots, and I don't get it. I watch the guys on TV and the gals on TV and how they set up to shots, and I always say they're there for a reason. They do things simply. It seems great and effortless and all this, but it's actually very simple a lot of times what they do around the greens. Mm-hmm. You see, the highlight reel, you see the big flop shot, but in actuality, they're actually hitting very simple shots, not easy shots, but the simplest they can do so that they can perform under pressure. So watching how they set up, watching their technique, I think is always helpful, and especially during the U.S. Open here, it'll be a good time.
Certainly, we're going to see some people challenged to get some golf balls up and down no matter where they miss the green from. Great tips there. Figure out what your best distance is. Lay up to that distance. Don't fall victim to the people you're playing with calling you soft or whatever they might call you for not going for the green out of the rough for 220. Yeah. Lay up to that distance. Use the right club appropriately there, and then use that to your advantage to try to get up and down. And I really like the one about becoming less handy. handsy. I find I do that as well. I get a little bit handsy around the green, and it's tough to be consistent when you're handsy. Let the big muscles do the work. You have a better chance to get it up and down no matter what. Dan, I want to thank you for being on with us today. On short notice, Dan came on, and it was great. We love having him on. He provides us with great insight. He's the head of instruction at the Rick Smith Golf Academy at International in Bolton, Massachusetts. You can go down and see him anytime. Look him up. He's on YouTube, on their website. They're all over Twitter. These guys are everywhere now, and I think it's phenomenal. It seems like they're doing a great job with everybody. I'm going to come down. I'm going to check it out. I swear. I'm not lying to you. I swear this is going to happen at some point. At some point, it's really going to happen. I know they're doing a great job with their people down there. Their staff is great, and it certainly will be beneficial to everybody out there to go see him down there. So, Dan, I want to thank you for coming on. Have a great weekend. Enjoy yourself, and enjoy the U.S. Open. We're going to take a break now. Third segment, come back, FedEx St. Jude Classic. We'll talk a little bit of U.S. Open right here on WGAM.